Hello and welcome to Talking Live. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig out of Starshot Studios in Times Square. I am so thrilled to introduce you to Evy Poumpouras. She is a former Secret Service agent, and she is what I call our very own blonde Wonder Woman. She is going to let us know how we can protect ourselves during this very dangerous time that we live in, and a lot of people are feeling very frightened. I'm sure you've seen her on the Today Show, HLN, CNN, the Steve Harvey Show. She's everywhere, and I'm just so thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm sure everybody wants to know, especially after Manchester, what happened in England with the concert. And I know a lot of parents were really struck by what happened and really felt it, because we really identified with letting your teen go to a great concert they want to be a part of, and then hearing this horrible tragedy. It's very identifiable, and especially people in the United States identify with what goes on in London and England. What do people ask you about when there's a terrorist attack? What do people most want to know?
You know, the question is, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do if this happens? And it's a very complicated question, because there's so many different answers to it, because it depends on what type of an attack it is. There's a couple of basic things that people should do, and one is not to be afraid. Keep going to these concerts, keep sending your children, because you're going to be afraid then to go to a restaurant, you're going to be afraid to go to a movie theater. You're going to be afraid to go everywhere and anywhere, and you can't live like that psychologically, and even just spiritually, physically, you can't live that way.
I'm so glad that you said that, because a lot of patients will ask me, should they not go to the mall? Should they not come into the city? Even my daughter asked me, should I go to this particular concert or not? And I'm always a person who says yes to life. I mean, you certainly have to listen to what the State Department says. I would not send anyone to North Korea. Right? Okay. That's not, I would not say yes to that. But I agree with you. You definitely have to live your life. But the question is, how do you know that you're going to be safe? So when you say, I just said yes to my daughter going to a Grateful Dead concert, I was hopeful she'd have a great time and enjoy the concert, but I couldn't guarantee that it would be safe.
You can't guarantee anything.
Okay.
Ever.
So
Number
ever.
one,
You can't
guarantee anything, right? So the first thing we should start doing is having situational awareness. So when I say that, is wherever you go, anywhere, you need to take a moment, pause, and stop and think, where am I? So right here, we're in the studio, we've got windows behind us, we're over Times Square, we've got this beautiful view. So I understand, you know, what is around me, where are my exits? And that's the other thing, is so take a moment. The thing is, we're in our own world a little bit, and you just take 1 minute to figure out, where am I, who's around me, who's sitting next to me, you know, what's going on around me, and then also exits. Very simple. So I call this the herd mentality. Usually when there's some kind of an emergency, people always go run out the same door that they walk in through.
Okay.
You don't want to do that. It's a psychological thing that we do, actually.
So
that's
interesting. Why do you think we do that?
It's just what we remember. I walked in through that door, I'm going to go out that door. Do you know how on a plane they tell you there's exits behind you? Make sure you know there's the exits behind you. They do that on purpose, because they know if there's some type of accident, everyone's going to rush out the one door that everybody came in.
Right.
So always go to a different exit. In fact, like when I go to theaters, I always sit by an exit door where nobody else wants to sit.
Oh, that's so smart.
Oh yeah, even in a movie theater, I never
Do you
sit
go
in the
early?
middle.
Do you go early so that you can get that seat?
I try, but that's only because my husband's like super like, I need to see the trailers. I never sit in the middle. I always sit towards the edges, and I always sit by an exit door that's away from the mass of people. And this is why. The majority of people are going to run out the same way they came in, and that a lot of the injuries that do happen come from the panic and fear that people have from stampedes. So half the injuries are from the actual event or attack, and the other half are from us hurting each other.
So what about like an outdoor concert? So for example, my daughter went to an outdoor concert. What do you look for in an outdoor concert if you're not indoors?
2 ways out.
Okay.
You always want to think of 2 ways out. So think of it this way. If something happens here on my right side, I'm going to go towards the left. If something happens here, I'm going to go towards the right. And think, you know what, if I'm surrounded 360, If something happens in front of me, I'm going to go towards the back. So you should just take, and it takes less than a minute to be like, okay, oh, there's an exit there, there's an opening there, I can make my way through here. So you want to do that. You also want to minimize where you put yourself. Don't maybe be in the middle. You know, even when you go to a restaurant, something like a restaurant, don't sit in the middle of the restaurant. Hug the edges of the restaurant, sit by the walls, and then even better, have your back to the wall, and so that way you can see out and you can see what's happening around you. These are such tiny little things that you can do, but they give you confidence, they give you power, they give you more control around your surroundings.
I was going to say, you know, if I were, let's say, to advise my kids, okay, just telling them to be aware of where they came in and where the exits are, or just where to sit. If they feel confident and they feel like they can have some degree of control, that can be tremendously helpful in terms of reducing that momentary anxiety, where if you're educated, you can think things through instead of being highly reactive.
Yes, and we are a very reactive population. One of the things I also tell people is take some type of either take on a sport or a class that allows you to have some type of shock factor, like surfing. This morning I was out surfing. I was getting clobbered by the waves, but you know, it's a shock. It's a shock on your body where you just want to fight and survive. Or take a defense class, but not one where they just teach you moves. Take a class where, you know what, people put hands on you or they strike you, where you know what it feels like to have some type of person put hands on you, so that way when something does happen in real life, you're not shocked by it. You can think through. So a lot of what happens to us is the moment of shock where we become paralyzed by fear. And that's a psychological thing.
Right.
And so you want to kind of minimize that through the different things that you can do, get rid of that fear. I mean, you're always going to have fear.
But I guess what you're talking about is like training your body and your mind and getting desensitized a little bit.
Yes, so that you're not in this constant state of fear where you're like, you know what, this person just attacked me. Well, I've been hit before. I know what that feels like, and I know what to do.
See, I feel that in my mind, but I probably know.
Come here,
It's a fantasy.
come here.
I walk around like, you better not. But if somebody actually did something, I'd be like, no, don't touch my hair. You're messing my hair.
But there's little things you can do. Kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, there's contact sports, things that you know, frighten you, things that where you're kind of, you know, you have that moment of fear, like even something like surfing. You're out in the water, you could drown. Again, it's getting over that shock, so that, you know why? It gives you confidence. It gives you confidence when you're like, you know what?
And it's physical confidence. This is a little bit different. It's physical confidence.
Both.
It's both.
It's both because even when I went through the different trainings, I've been through different academies, even the NYPD, they teach you to deal with altercation, to embrace it, not fear it. And I think we're so afraid. We're like, oh, I don't know. What am I going to do with this? Don't be afraid. Okay, this happens. Well, you know what? I've got it.
Now, you were actually caught in the middle of 9/11, correct?
Yes.
And I think anyone who lived in New York City, I was in New York City at the time, remembers 9/11 so vividly. I think I was the only person who got a cab. I was downtown. I don't know why I remember that.
Taxi.
Yeah,
taxi.
I was like, hello, I'm wearing 5-inch heels, and I don't know, I guess God came down and said, we'll give her a taxi. Did your training help you survive under those circumstances?
You know, I don't know.
Okay.
Sometimes I'd like to think so, but then I think also, too, as a very feisty young woman growing up, too, which is probably I went into this field, it does kick in. I remember there was a moment where, I mean, we were there trying to help people, and because our offices were down there for the agency, you know, for the service. And I remember there's a moment when the tower started coming down, and I really didn't understand what was happening. And I remember thinking, okay, well, if I don't get, and time slowed down, and I kind of thought it through. I was like, all right, well, I might die. I was like, so what can I do to prevent it? What do I have control over? And I was like, well, I have control over what's immediately around me. And I remember we had some water there nearby that we were washing people's faces and eyes and helping them so they can clear the area. I grabbed water, and I was like, all right, if I get buried alive, I'll have water to take care of me. And then there was these tables, these metal tables, and I dragged one over. And this is seconds. I don't know how this happened. And I thought to myself, okay, well, if I don't get crushed by the debris, the glass might cut me, so let me have this table shield me from the glass. And I pulled it down, and I sat under the concrete, you know, sat on the concrete under the table with my water, and I literally thought through the different scenarios And I waited it out. And it's interesting because if I see it on TV now, I'm thinking, wow, that happened so fast. But in that moment, I thought through, look, you're afraid. You know, of course, in that moment, I was like, wow, this might be it. But then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a victim. And that's the thing. It's like, don't take on the role of the victim. You can be a survivor or a victim, right? And so...
Are there a series of questions the novice can ask themselves in order to move themselves from victim to survivor? Because you're obviously trained, and maybe we should find out, should everybody be trained, and if so, where should they go, or should we come to you, or are you providing?
Come to my house every Friday night.
I'm going to come to your house.
We'll hang out. We're thinking.
How can the novice basically put on that survivor mentality in a way that's smart?
It's such a psychological thing, really. It's like you have to armor yourself up, but you have to do that, I think, in your life and in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's with everything. I always tell people when they're like, oh, I'm afraid of this, and I always say, kill fear while it's still small. If you're afraid of driving, start driving.
Yeah.
If you're afraid of flying, fly. Do it all as in that moment that you feel that panic, because if you don't, it's going to manifest into this bigger thing, and then it's going to go into other areas of your life.
I agree, and I will recommend to my patients, take action. Action is the best antidote to fear, because if you're in the moment and doing something, then you can feel like you have control, and you are more in a survival mode and mentality, which I think is really fantastic. There was a Gallup poll recently that said that Americans' fear level is up from a few years ago, and I imagine it's because of what happened in Europe. And now people are slightly more afraid to attend crowds or be in a place where there's a crowd. What say you about that?
Go.
Yeah.
How can you not go?
It's kind of like an Israeli mentality. Have you ever seen Israelis?
Oh.
It's like they are tough.
They are. You just have to
They're
live.
just tough, and they just say yes in the moment, and you don't want to mess with them.
But you get in a car, you drive in a car, and that's way more dangerous than being caught. The chances of you being caught in some type of attack are so minimal compared to that. Go, live, be, but have your whereabouts. Be aware. Don't be, on your phone. Don't be in your own little world.
And how many of us are in our own worlds on our phone?
Yes.
Not noticing anything.
It's just situational awareness. Pay attention to who's around you, what is going on around you, where you are. Am I standing under a building that's, all glass? Okay, maybe I want to be aware of that. If I'm at an outdoor concert, take a moment to think, something very simple like cover and concealment. I do this everywhere I go, and it's not a morbid thing. It's just like I go somewhere and I think, okay, if somebody were to come into attack, where would I run? Well, I could hide here. I could hide behind the sofa. This might shield me. I could hide behind that table. I would hide behind this thing. I'd make myself teeny tiny small, and whatever would give me cover. And cover something that could stop a bullet, per se.
So it could be a table. It could be maybe a pillow.
A pillow would be concealment.
Oh, it would be
concealment. Now, this sounds silly to people. I tell people, look, if you can't find something hard to, bunker down behind, a drape, a poster, like you said, pillow, a big pillow.
So camouflage, hide yourself.
You want to hide yourself.
Or you hear these people who pretend that they're dead when they've been shot, or just...
That happens sometimes, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. I will say this, and it's even on the Department of Homeland Security site. These are the things you want to do.
Should we all look on the Department of...
They have a great, almost like exam that you can take.
Can I direct people to your...
Yes.
Now,
I will give you the link, and you can post that, and you can share it with folks.
Okay. And I want everyone to know, too, that Evy is creating her own website where she's going to teach us all of these things about what to be aware of, how to detect if someone is lying, and both her lifestyle in front of the camera and behind the camera. And she's going to let us know as soon as it's up. And we are going to direct all of you there, because this is really important information, and to hear it from a glamorous expert is really what we all need in our lives. I'm sorry. So
we all have it. We are all capable of being tough, all of us. We all have it. I'm no different than anybody else. It's just our mindset. And just a couple of basic things, and I'll make it simple. There's the first thing you want to do if you're ever in a situation is evacuate. How do I get out of there? So when you show up somewhere, think, if I need to get out of here, how can I? Evacuate. Now, let's say you can't evacuate. Okay, I can't get out. I'm stuck. Where can I hide? So if I'm indoors somewhere, maybe I can hide in a bathroom. You want to think, though, I need a door that locks, per se, maybe. Like when I go to a restaurant, before I look at the menu, I go to the bathroom.
Really?
I go to the bathroom, and I say to myself, and I look inside, and
I'm always in the bathroom anyway, but now I'm deliberately going to
go to the bathroom and see if that door locks. Not the stall, but the actual door.
Okay.
And then see if there's a window in the bathroom. That's also a way to get out. Also, since we're talking about restaurants, don't go out the front door. In every restaurant, there's a door in the back by the kitchen. So when everyone's running that front door, you go to that kitchen door.
That's brilliant. I love that idea.
So these are very little things. It takes seconds. So
and do you need to carry a weapon on you, or mace, or does that help? Does it hurt? Is that controversial?
It is controversial, you know, and everybody needs to do what they're comfortable with. You know, some people, you know, want to carry a weapon, and they can. It also depends where you live. Here in New York City,
and I just want to direct everybody. Here is a picture of Evy because she worked for several presidential administrations, starting with the Clinton administration.
I started with the Clintons.
And you worked longest with Obama. Is that correct?
Obama's the one where I was on his personal presidential detail.
So we have a picture of you and your husband and the Obamas.
Oh yeah, that's Christmas.
Oh, so anyway, that was Christmas. Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that picture.
Yeah,
it's really
very
nice. You must cherish that picture.
Yeah.
But the other picture of you with Obama in the back, I was thinking about this, not that you asked, but I would blow that up the size of a wall and put it behind a glass frame and have that in my office.
You know, I have all my stuff actually like hidden. Everything's in my parents' house, in my dad's basement. So I would get stuff, whatever awards or stuff, and I just put them under the bed. And if you go to my parents' house, it's like he's got an I love me wall, which is very sweet.
That's so sweet.
But it's all there.
And you're also multilingual. I mean, you are proficient in several languages. So Greek, I know. Your parents are Greek, right?
Yeah, my parents are Greek. So Greek was first, English in school.
And then Spanish and Arabic and Italian?
Yes, yes.
So how did you learn all of these languages?
You know what? I studied overseas when I was in college.
Okay.
And I wanted to see the world, so while my friends were out clubbing it, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go overseas and see the world. And it wasn't easy. My parents couldn't afford it. I worked part-time jobs, and I wanted to go out there, and so I lived in Italy for a while, so I learned Italian. And then I went to Spain, the same thing. I lived there, and I learned Spanish. So, and I just loved languages, though, and I enjoyed that. And Arabic I learned after 9/11 to help with, you know, with work stuff. But even that's a beautiful language.
Yeah. Well, if you love languages.
If you do what you love,
it
comes to you.
It does. There's a lot to be said for motivation. Speaking of motivation, we do a segment called Keeping It Real, where we ask some fun questions. Okay. So if you could keep only 5 possessions, what would they be?
5 possessions.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm too in my head to answer something like this.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay, I'll tell you right now. A Hanes t-shirt.
A Hanes t-shirt.
The wife beaters, I love those. They're so comfortable.
Well, you wear them well.
I love them. Okay. Probably mace.
Okay, good.
If I couldn't have a weapon, I'd have mace.
All right.
I'd need some type of weapon. I would. Are these like things?
It could be whatever you want. It could be a hairbrush. It could be lip gloss. No judgment.
It would be.
I'm a therapist. No judgment.
Probably sneakers, because I need to run either at someone or away from someone. And I think a notebook and a notebook and a pen, because
very pragmatic.
I write things down. Whatever I think of, I write down. Sometimes if I'm looking, I have a ritual. Like I try to write things down that I'm grateful for, to set like a positive note for the day. And then at the end of the day, I always think back. I'm like, what could I have done better or differently today? And I write that down. And I feel like that's how I'm able to kind of deal with daily problems. Because sometimes I think we feel a little bit like everything's out of my control.
Yeah.
And to some extent, maybe yes. But at the end of the day, like I feel that we rule our own universe. And
we can control a lot more than we think we do. So it's good to be, it's a very healthy way to operate, because the more that we can reduce our own stress, just the healthier and stronger and younger we'll look and be. So I'm always for that. What's one of your most defining moments in life? I imagine you've had many.
You know what? I think it was actually 9/11.
Okay.
Because in that moment when the tower was coming down, I really thought I was going to die, because it was coming down. And I remember that moment when it was coming down and I sat there and I was like, okay, I was like, I may not have a choice whether I die or not, but I have a choice how I'm going to die. And I was like, you know what? I chose not to be afraid. I was like, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to keep my eyes open and I'm going to stay aware and I want to see and feel how my end comes. I was like,
And you won an award for...
they gave me and some other agents a Valor Award. It's for heroism on that day because we stayed to help.
And that's significant. How do you spend your free time now?
I do crazy things. I do things that I'm afraid of.
She probably works out.
I was surfing all morning, actually. I was out surfing, getting clobbered by the waves, but it was amazing. Free time, I try to stay very physically active.
Yeah, you're very active.
Yes, but as we get up there in age too, I think it's any age, but I feel younger, I feel stronger.
Well, that helps. I've done studies where, you know, the younger you feel, the more productive your workout is. So it's good all the way around. It's really true. They've done studies.
18.
Well, right. You know, and I feel like I'm 24 and I'm not, but that's why we're friends, because we know how to feel young. What are you most afraid of now?
Wow. I don't know. I guess we're all afraid of failure.
Okay.
You know, but then I always take risks and chances and do things that I'm afraid of.
Yeah, you're a say yes to life kind of person.
Yes.
I think that's why we jive.
You're always going to be afraid. Like, and that's the thing. I think people think, like, fear exists and it's normal. But then I'm kind of like, all right, you're there.
Let's fight against it.
I'm going for it.
Let's do this.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And if you could witness any event of the past, present, or future, what would it be?
Of the past, present, you know what I would wish? I would wish that all the terrorism would stop.
Yeah.
I think that we're speaking about that. If I could, I would wish anything. I just wish for there to be stopped, for this conflict to stop, where we're just not. This is the idea of terrorism is such a serious thing, such a heavy thing, and I feel it's going to be around for a long time, and I would love for that to just stop.
I'm right there with you. From your lips to God's ears, and hopefully you will share this with all of your friends and family who have any questions about how they need or want to protect themselves. And you can also go to my Facebook so you can see Evy and find out more about her and look at her Facebook page and follow her on Twitter and Facebook and all these other great places. And thank you again for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next week.